Hi everyone, my name is Allie. Today I'm going to talk about climate change and where is it on the national agenda. I'm going to go into the background a little bit. So why did I choose climate change? I'm a bio major, and ever since college began, my life has been all about plants, animals, nature, and our relationship with all of those topics. One very important thing that I have learned is that maintaining homeostasis is vital to life. For example, humans have many functions that help us maintain homeostasis. We sweat when we're hot, and we shiver when we're cold, and we get thirsty when we're dehydrated. Why is this relevant is what you're probably wondering, but I just wanted to relate it to the fact that the Earth doesn't have these defaults that we have when its temperature gets too hot. So it's our responsibility to help it. And I thought it would be appropriate to go back into Earth's history to similar events that have happened compared to today. So this is the end of Permian extinction, which happened 250 million years ago. There were a lot of things that happened. It was known as the Great Dying because about 95% of the population in marine life died and 70% of terrestrial life died. This was due to high temperatures and low oxygen levels in the water, which was it was due to the release of a lot of greenhouse gases from volcanic eruptions. But scientists use this model as a comparison to predict what's going to happen given our current rate of global warming. So I'm going to take you to today's events or today's environment in which we are losing a lot of sea ice. Sea levels are rising and we are experiencing increasing temperatures. As you can see to the left, that is on the Greenland ice sheet. There is a lot of ice that has melted and there's a lot of ice that has melted. And by 2050, the Arctic Ocean is predicted to have no more ice, which is very devastating considering how many animals that live in the Arctic Ocean. And on the right, that is an image of coral. You can see on the leftmost picture that it's only 5% dead, and that was taken in January 5th. On January 19th, about 20% was dead. You can see in this, I don't know if you can see my mouse, but you can see from the white part, that's called coral bleaching. And on February 1, which was just a month later, over 60% of it was dead, which is just an example of what happens due to increased temperatures and how fragile life is. So now my questions, knowing all that information, my questions were, does the government realize the severity of climate change? Are they choosing to ignore it? And how is it being addressed? So this naturally led me to wonder, what is the government doing, or what have they done? Well, in 2015, we signed the Paris Climate Agreement, which is an environmental accord meant to reduce overall global carbon gas emissions in the hopes of limiting the temperature increase to 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels within the century. This has been signed by almost every country in the world, with the larger carbon-producing countries committing in a formal agreement to reduce their own pollution and enforce these commitments over time. Another benefit of this pact is that it provides ways for the developed countries, such as the US or China, to assist developing nations in mitigating climate change because it requires modern technology and resources that they have difficulty accessing. And this was a huge step towards reducing climate change because unified effort is vital in making a meaningful impact. And so I'm going to go into green technology. This diagram shows the 4 potential ways that green technology is going to help us. First it's going to promote the substitution of fossil fuels for clean energy, which in turn might reduce the amount of carbon emissions produced. It's also going to provide a end of pipe solution, which means that it's just going to be storing the carbon that's produced before it has a chance to get into the atmosphere and reusing it. And it has the potential to stimulate growth in the economy by shifting low value added industries to high value added industries. Additionally, green technology improves human capital, which is correlated to economic improvement. There are some potential conflicts, though, which I would like to get into, and it's actually the main point of my research, which is why isn't the government addressing climate change? Spoken from a naive person. I didn't realize that there are potential trade-offs, and it's between money or sustainability. Green technology is definitely going to help reduce greenhouse emissions, but it's also important for governments to consider how this will affect economic growth, which is always a good thing. You want the economy to improve, so we're all happy, or most of us. Sorry. There has been little empirical evidence that the imagined success of adopting green technology in developed countries could be replicated amongst developing countries. This is because most of the theories are built on the assumptions that countries that take part in this already have the means and incentives to adopt this new and innovative technology. A recent study done by professors from the Chinese Institute for Studies in Energy Policy they actually took into account the individual differences in countries regarding income and various other factors, and they found that overall, green technology does have the likely potential to improve total factor carbon productivity, which is a difficult term to understand, but basically it provides a value to measure the progress in reducing carbon-based resources. And they concluded that yes, overall, green technology does have the likely potential to improve the total factor carbon productivity, but there seems to be a threshold effect regarding income. Countries with higher income are going to experience an increase in carbon productivity, but countries with lower income are less likely to benefit from this. One of the reasons that this may happen is because it requires complementary technology to support the green technology. Something that those developing countries don't have. But that's only short term, but based on the long-term results, low-income developing countries are likely to benefit more from adopting green technology because this is going to, in addition to helping the environment, it will upgrade their existing technology. Another conflict that happened was that the US left the Paris Climate Agreement, which has a lot of drastic effects. For example, this may lead to the failure of the Paris Agreement because even though the US withdrawal itself isn't going to affect the environment that much, it'll still have a good impact, but not as much as the cascading effect it will have on other countries. The graph on the left it predicts the expected temperature increase in 4 scenarios. Scenario 1, assuming that the US didn't withdraw from the Paris Agreement, it reflects the amount that the temperature is going to increase, which is 2.8, which is already above our hope, what we kind of hoped would be the temperature would increase in the Paris Agreement, which was 1.5 to 2 degrees Celsius. And in scenario 2, that's what's going to happen after the US leaves and stops giving low carbon producing technology to other countries. It's increased by 0.05 degrees, and in scenario 3 and 4, those are just representing potential outcomes based off of scenario 2, but in either one, the temperature increases by another degree, which is a lot. In the second graph on the right, that's depicting how much low carbon energy transfers are going to occur in the four scenarios, which are the same as the first graph in scenario 1. That's when the US is still a part of the Paris Agreement. You can see there's a lot of trade happening. In scenario 2, there is substantially less trade happening, and so a lot of countries aren't getting the low carbon emitting technology that they need. And in scenario 3 and 4, it just gets smaller and smaller, which is very, very bad. So going back to my original question, what is the government doing in the face of climate change? Initially, I was perturbed by the government's seemingly lack of concern regarding climate change because I didn't know that much. But then I realized that there are layers and layers of arguments that go for either side, money or sustainability. Then I came across an article called "The Politics and Impact of Climate Change on Health Policy," which pointed out that previous presidents, even though they were Republican, same as President Trump, President Nixon established the Environmental Protection Agency in 1907, and other Republican members of the government made it a priority to reduce the industrial water and air pollution that was occurring across the country. But during President Trump's presidency, all previous progress made concerning matters of environmental and health protections were deteriorated. For example, 85 regulations supporting clean water and air to protect biodiversity were reversed. And I wondered, why was there so much opposition towards environmental protection in the government? Yes, it's important for the economy to continue growing. However, most times, such as in the past, the government wouldn't be so skewed and usually picks the middle of the two choices. And I found out that there is a larger number of individuals from the business community and previous industry lobbyists in the upper branches of the federal agencies that reversed the previous regulations, which is fine because they're looking out for the welfare of the country. But given how many the amount of environmental regulations that were reversed, Americans are now vulnerable to a cascade of potential health problems. For example, given the some previous acts were reversed, flooding now has the potential to carry water pollution that wasn't prevented from agricultural waste, coal ash pond dispersion, and chemical and petroleum plant discharge. And this water can flow into wells and soil and contaminate them. I think that overall, humans grossly underestimate the impact of climate change on our health, which can influence our decisions regarding the economy or environment. But recent events have brought to light just how much we were affected. So the whole world was hit by an outbreak known as COVID, which caused the death of thousands. But in response, countries initiated the stay-at-home order, which limited traveling privileges and social interactions. What we didn't expect was to see the way the environment bounced back. In the left, you can see how much nitrogen gases have reduced, and that gas is a clear indicator of air pollution. By February 2020, in comparison to a year ago, it has almost completely gone, and that's in China. And on the right, that's Italy. NO2 levels have severely decreased. More importantly, the world has been so fixated on the number of COVID-related deaths that we fail to compare it to the deaths related to other sicknesses, such as air pollution. Deaths related to poor air quality have decreased by 6%. Air pollution has decreased, or it's correlated to many illnesses such as asthma, bronchitis, emphysema, lung and heart diseases, and respiratory allergies. In 2012, there were 193,000 deaths in Europe alone from air pollution, and since then, air quality has only decreased. What this means is, and at one point in time during this year, there were 3,158 reported deaths from COVID-19. But in comparison to the rest, to air pollution deaths, COVID-19 actually reduced the total amount of deaths in the world by improving the air quality. which I thought was very, very interesting. I still give credit to the government for prioritizing our financial